Salutations, my name is Zach Johnson, and today we are going live from the Nest. I'm joined with Cortney Woodruff, founder and CEO of the Trainersvault.
Yeah.
Cortney, how you doing,
Zach?
bud?
I'm doing great, happy to be here.
Thanks for joining us. And before we dive into this interview, I just want to talk about how Cortney and I were connected and really the train of events that happened in coming in for an interview at Live from the Nest. I was introduced to Cortney from my good friend Cedric. I immediately followed up to that email with my HubSpot calendar link, which is an amazing tool. HubSpot's the CRM that we use here at Hawke Media. I provided Cortney with my email link. You then clicked on that link and booked an appointment.
Yeah.
We hopped on my Uber conference line and we discovered that we were only 3 or 4 miles away.
Yeah.
That's usually about a 35, 40-minute drive in Los Angeles. But we decided instead of, talking over the phone, have you come in, check out the Hawk's Nest, and see what we're about for yourself. I've actually not heard the whole story of Trainersvault. Can you tell us about this amazing business that you started?
Yeah, totally. I did emerge 2012 back in Mississippi, where I'm from. Mm-hmm. Always grown up playing sports, and the genesis of it was, how do we connect people with personal fitness instructors or sports instructors for their kids? Fast forward, I go away to Europe to business school. I see that the fitness industry is one that's quite old in the way it does its business practices. So I drop out, move to Silicon Valley, and ultimately built Trainersvault, which is a direct-to-consumer platform for personal trainers. What does that mean? In this day and age, we're in the digitization of all industries, which means that every single company is going to ultimately be transformed and digitized. So with the fitness industry, we're building a software and platform for trainers to handle all elements of their business, their bookings, selling tickets to their classes, even distributing digital media and selling videos and ebooks and workout plans and so on and so forth.
Amazing.
Yep.
And you mentioned a couple of things that I want to talk about. So you dropped out of school, and you pursued entrepreneurship. Now, when did this idea really come to you, and when did you actually put your foot on the gas and really start driving the ship?
Well, to give you a little background, I was 22 in the top business school in the world, IESE. And so I was really passionate about that. I think I didn't realize the level of discipline and focus you needed to be in a top MBA program, let alone how hard it is to really start a business. And I was trying to do both while living abroad in a different country, right? And so I finished the first year, but I really took all of the money that I had for business school and invested in that business. So I think once, I kind of was forced to make a decision. It's, do you get this MBA from this prestigious institution and go on and do iBanking or whatever you want to do in this world, or do you really believe in yourself? It's just the true tale of entrepreneurship, right? And so I think I kind of decided once I stopped going on all the the banking tours and all the career development tours that the business schools offer you, and was putting and investing everything in this startup idea. It's just been clear from day one for me.
That's amazing, and I can fully relate to everything you just said, because I myself dropped out of college after my freshman year, and I was very fortunate to have money set aside for my college education.
Right.
But I was so passionate about business, so I myself dropped out and used those funds to launch my business. And when you put that money up and you take that risk, can you speak to kind of that transition and how overwhelming it might be in the early stages and what you learn along the way?
Yeah, and what I say, you probably understand it, but once you kind of risk it all, I think it demonstrates to those around you that you're betting on yourself, and entrepreneurship, you have to bet on yourself even when others don't, and it's a daily thing, right? But it's very tough because you don't know what you don't know, and passion fuels entrepreneurship and preparation and staying at it, and then occasionally some luck comes along, right? But for me, I had never been to Silicon Valley ever in my life. There aren't too many examples of minorities that have been successful and raised capital, built companies. So it's I really had to live off passion, my own intellect, intuition, and just grind it out. And it's still a grind, but once you start to, you take a problem, you create a solution, you find a market, you find customers, paying customers, you figure out ways to improve and drive efficiencies throughout your thought process, right? And then ultimately you construct a business that hopefully is sustainable. And so you learn all those things as you're doing it. And it's just a beautiful experiment, because you then can apply this across anything that you do in life, whether it's personal or within a professional setting.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, finding a problem, coming up with a solution, addressing a market. Can you talk to me about this market and what you've seen be the most successful form of inbound lead generation, or just successful marketing in general?
Yeah, well, I think we live in a day and an age where we have these platforms that have immense reach, right? And you can just create content, and before you know it, it could go viral. But then you have companies such as Hawke, right? And they really have a science to it. So let me give you an example. For us, we have a huge focus on media content. We produce, we edit, we release. But our focus is not figuring out, the AdWords or how to integrate and get these things on Facebook or across these various social media channels. Like that's just not our expertise. Our expertise is in the room, like coming up with narratives and creative briefs and working with personal trainers and really figuring out how to help them tell their stories. But what we see is that, this millennial generation is just, they love this stuff, right? So that's when companies like yours really come into play, because you can break it down to a science and figure out who to target and how to direct and how to really gather attention of specific audiences. And we're all about learning that stuff from you guys, by the way. So
I love that. Well, I'm a big believer in what you've kind of mentioned a few times, is you know what you know and you know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And I think, being able to look at a company like Hawke Media, and we haven't even had a chance to talk about, what we do. And I'm glad that you mentioned kind of keywords and, Facebook ads and customer acquisition. But what makes Hawke Media such a unique marketing firm in the marketplace is that we deliver all of our services a la carte. So there's no gray area in terms of what you're investing into for your business.
Right.
So if you needed help on email marketing, or you needed help on paid search, what are the keywords that we should be bidding on? We've seen a lot of success as using Facebook as one of those monster acquisition platforms where you can get extra granular with your targeting. So these are all separate a la carte channels at Hawke, and one of the things that I don't think our competitors realize that they're doing is they're being very broad with their agreements or their contracts with their clients. With Hawke, you know exactly what you're paying for, and you're dealing with an expert on that specific channel. Right. And the other thing I didn't mention is that everything's month to month. So if we wanted to go with more of a bootstrapped approach, we could start with what we call strategy and execution, which is your outsourced CMO. And it's really their job to take a deep dive audit of all the campaigns that you've run to this point, make recommendations on some of those keywords that we should be focusing on, and then ultimately roll out a marketing strategy for 6 to 12 months that helps you attain your goals.
Right.
So on that first call, whether you go with the strategy service or email marketing or influencer marketing, which I'm excited to talk to you about, you are able as the business owner to say, this is what we want to achieve, and this is the period of time we want to do it in. And then we come back after a week of completing a competitive analysis, doing that audit that I mentioned, and now we're speaking on your level. We understand your business, we understand your wins and losses. We're speaking from a point of clarity. But with that being said, can you speak about the importance of influencer marketing for Trainersvault?
Yeah, I think, with influencer marketing with us, it has really been organic in the sense that we built something that really is utilized by influencers on the micro influencer level as well as the macro influencer level. But at the end of the day, a lot of influencers, they have a problem with building a business. They have a brand and a lot of followers, but those followers have been accumulated by photos and
Right.
videos, right? So figuring out how to translate that into a business can seemingly be very difficult at times, right? And ultimately what they will do is figure out how to create a little business overnight, and they normally ruin their credibility. So by working with Trainersvault, we've kind of built a product that allows them to enhance their brand, but it also helps our brand grow as well because people are seeing the usage of it, right? And we work with very, very large influential influencers, but they love us because what we try to do is figure out how to help them build their brands in a very authentic, sustainable way, but in a way that really builds a business also over time. So it's not just them building their social media followers, right? It's how do we create some residual income or business models around the brand that you're cultivating with that audience, so that you're not left standing in the dust when the next social media platform comes up and you have to start from scratch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're popping up all the time. I mean, some have the legs, some don't. But
Yeah.
so tell me about the onboarding process of a trainer to Trainersvault and what that engagement looks like.
Well, we've been quite methodical. So we've had our platform in a beta invite only stage for quite some time now. But the way we have onboarded the few trainers that we have allowed to use the platform, it's a lot of the times now we'll go through the waiting list, and we will look and do research and see what that trainer is, what they stand for, if they have the credentials and the certifications and whatnot. And then we'll have a one-on-one consultation with them and see what are their goals, because in a way we kind of offer an a la carte service as well. Do you need to build your brand? Do you need strategy? Do you need media production? Do you need graphic design? Do you just need an easier way to sell tickets to your events in the park, right? What do you need? And once they tell us that, we will kind of suggest the services that we think will be great for them. And I think the cool thing about what we do is the way we assess and try to think critically about our business is looking at the music industry. And what we normally tell trainers is, if you take the best business practices and business models that artists use within the music industry and you apply them to fitness.
Well, expand on that. What do you mean precisely in terms of comparing it to the music business?
Well, we see personal trainers as artists. And one of the things that we don't think Hollywood or any of our competitors have gotten right in all this time is that every artist is a brand. They have their own unique story, right? So they've gotten it all wrong. So how do we help these trainers really build their brands and not only release a workout program and have a class, but how do they really release a narrative and tell a narrative as to why they're in the fitness, how they're really impacting people's lives, right? And we have to be very creative in how we go about doing that, whether it's creating ads, creating interviews, documentaries, workout programs, the rest, right? So on and so forth. So take that back to the music industry. That's very similar to what independent music artists are having to do these days because they don't have the money that labels used to provide, right? And so now it's you build that brand, you build that engagement, you tell that narrative, and you sell those tickets to your classes. You go on tour and do classes, right? Very similar to a musician. You get that data, which Trainersvault can give you, those analytics, and then you create some type of digital good, which is then able to be sold at scale cross borders.
Amazing.
And you have a very powerful business model and a funnel or ecosystem that is very lucrative.